Good afternoon, everybody. Scott Fisher with Senior Resource Connectors. So glad to be back with you here again today. We are in the midst of season 2, and we are bringing you our experts who are taking on many of the challenges and the pain points that so many of our families talk to us about as they are navigating the journey of aging with a loved one. Senior Resource Connectors, as you know, was developed 3 years ago now. Our fourth year will start here in the next month or so. And we were developed with directly to respond to the challenges that the adult children, those of you who find yourselves in the age group of 45 to 65, might be experiencing or sensing some issues with someone that you love, and from legal, financial, insurance, care issues, staying at home, how to do it safely, how to be smart, what questions do you need to know about all these things. Connectors is here to help you answer all of those questions. And so my friend Edward Gibbons, who we did one of these back in the season 1, Edward.
Yes, we did.
And Edward is with HealthMarkets. He handles all things insurance. There's a lot to his business. And if you want to go back to season 1 and listen to some of the things we talked about, there's a lot to Medicare itself. There's a lot to the law that changes and how people engage with the Medicare program. And we talked a lot about that in season 1, but we got some new things, and we're going to drill deeper into some more challenges families experience, Edward. So welcome. So glad you could do this again. And thanks for taking time to talk to us.
No, thanks for having me here, Scott. It's always a pleasure to get a chance to talk with you and, let people know about what Senior Resource Connectors does and the people who are part of that group. I mean, we want to help people navigate the system. I had a friend of mine the other day pretty much say, "Hey, our healthcare system sucks." And like, it does. I mean, it's got its challenges, but having a group like this together where we can help people navigate what's going on, it makes it a little bit easier for folks.
Can I tell you 3 calls? I'll just be real brief.
Yep.
On Monday. I took these 3 calls. Number 1, I get a phone call from a buddy of mine. Known him for over 25 years, he and his wife. However, he lost his wife a year ago.
Mm.
He's 60. His father is 85, is in a skilled nursing facility for a second revision of an amputated leg. He already had one, lost one of his legs about 10 years ago.
Mm.
His wife was a nurse. She was so helpful to him, helping him navigate all this stuff with for his dad. His wife handled a lot of that stuff, and
Mm.
he's just blown out and overwhelmed. And he's like, who do I talk to? What? Number 2, I get a call from a former client of mine who is now calling me and asking me for help with her mom once again. They had chosen the first location that was convenient for mom and convenient for her brother. She's about my age.
Mm.
Her brother's a few years younger than me, in his 50s. She just lost her brother in his 50s. Now we have to pick up the conversation and help mom relocate.
Yeah.
3rd call, guy calls me, says, "Hey, you helped me with a family member of mine 5 years ago. I now need some help with my wife." And I said, "Well, Bob, how do I help you here?" And he says, "Well, my wife's 58 and just got diagnosed with
Mhm.
Alzheimer's."
Yeah.
All Monday, just boom.
Yeah.
This is no dress rehearsal, man. This is game on. It could be us, it could be our parents, but we have got to be educated and prepared. And so
Yes.
that's why we're here.
Well, and yeah, and know where to go. Um, it's one of those questions. I deal in an area with health insurance that people just don't want to talk about, but everybody knows it's there and everybody's afraid. And kind of one of the things I wanted to touch base with, it's a free resource to people. This will help you when you're going through one of those challenging moments. But all of my clients and the other agents that I talk to, people are afraid of the big what if.
Mhm.
What if I have a major accident? Okay? And for most people who are young, they're thinking about, I might fall off the roof or, get hit by a car or something. But when you're older, that could be just falling off a step ladder because you're trying to get the spices off the top shelf.
Right.
That could be slipping because you were in your garden and it was a little bit wet and you stepped on a stone and boom, something happens. But there's um, an app called Quizify to go, Quizzy, excuse me, Quizziff Y, the number two, go. Okay? It's built by a company that does actually education for businesses
Mhm.
on their healthcare. And
Really?
they were like, this would be a good resource to help educate people. And they offer this free. One of the things they have is their ER sticker shock prevent consent. If you were to go into an ER, a lot of people, when they go into an ER, there's something serious going on. If you're helping a family member, you're not in your right mind either because you're worried about that family member.
Right.
Okay? But the hospital on the business side, okay, so let's separate the business side of the hospital from the care side. The care team's trying to do what they need to do, but the
Right.
business side of the hospital is also trying to do what they are trying to do. Okay? And they're going to ask you to sign a whole bunch of documents and paperwork. Well, the thing is, you don't have to sign those right away. You can pause and give yourself a chance to breathe, make sure your family member's okay, and then sign those documents. But this particular consent allows you to write in. You ask for the paperwork. You write in on the paperwork this particular consent, superseding other consents. I consent to responsibility, including insurance, for up to 2 times Medicare, following receipt of an itemized bill for appropriate treatment coded at the correct level. Okay? Now, the interesting part about that last part is appropriate treatment coded at the right level, meaning you want to see the bill. You want to know what they cared for your family member for. Did they see them for 10 minutes in the ER, or did they see them for 30 minutes or an hour? How is that being billed? What type of medications did they give them? What type of treatments? Because the hospital business side might get a number wrong. The hospital business side might interpret something incorrectly. We have a right to take control of our own healthcare and protect our family members.
You hear these stories about in the emergency department,
Mhm.
here comes the business office right into the midst
Yes.
of a crisis. And you've got husbands trying to handle stuff with their kids or their wives,
Mhm.
kids taking care of their parents, and now they're being asked to and handed these consent to treats and all that, and but then the billing stuff comes behind it. Um,
Correct.
have you seen a hospital bill? I had surgery about 10 years ago, and the bill they sent me was like 103 grand for my back in surgery. Now I
Mhm.
didn't pay that, of course, but that was like without I just the costs were insane.
Correct.
What the hospital was laying on the bill. That again, that's not what I paid. That's not what my insurance company paid, but
Mhm.
103,000 for 3 days.
Yes. And helping people understand that a few years ago, a law was passed that basically hospitals cannot balance bill you for emergent or urgently needed care. Okay. So that means if one of the doctors is out of network, but they happen to be working in the ER, they can't send you a bill to say you need to pay this in addition to the bill that the hospital sent. So you have the opportunities to fight those types of things.
Mm,
But
mm,
most people will get the bill and they'll be like, oh, I got billed. I'm going to, write the check or try to figure out how to make a payment plan.
right. Right. I'll pay you $10 a month
Yeah.
forever.
Hmm.
But you just don't know. And as consumers, as that we're advocating for family, we've got to help them know where to go to get their questions answered or to get educated so they would know how to respond if they find themselves in a situation like this, right?
Correct. And another nice thing on this particular app is they've got a doctor prep kit. So the second section of this is questions to ask your doctor
Okay.
when you go in to see them. Because a lot of people might get the dreaded, cancer diagnosis. Something's going on. And the doctor may give them a course of treatment. But a lot of people may not ask, what else can I do?
Hmm.
Are there other options available to me?
Can I get a
Um,
second opinion?
can I get a second opinion? Um, you know, 5, 10 years ago, someone gets a diabetes diagnosis and they're all like, here's the medications, and you're going to need to be on insulin. But there's a lot of options today where people may go, oh, what's your diet like?
Right.
What's your living condition like? We can help change some of those scenarios. Maybe you don't need insulin. Maybe you don't need a certain medication. And so as we gain more knowledge, we get more information. So if people are armed with questions to ask, it can help them start to find the right answers for their needs.
Are you finding more health plans that you represent or handle have provision for chiropractic care, naturopathic care?
So
Um,
naturopathic care is kind of the big one that most plans don't even cover.
okay.
Okay.
All right.
Many will have some coverage for chiropractic care. But then you have to figure out, is the chiropractor I'd like to go to in network with this?
Well, that's another question that's the second
Um,
step in, but
correct. Am I limited to the number of times I can go to the chiropractor?
okay.
Okay. And that's even for Medicare Advantage type of plans.
Okay.
You know, there may be a limit to how many times they can go see a chiropractor. Although Medicare Advantage plans do have chiropractic, and some do have um, um, some naturopathic therapies. So
Okay.
some may have some acupuncture options in there.
Oh, okay. I,
Um,
I have in my personal life, I have a naturopath and my primary care MD, just
correct.
right. And I keep them both because I need full access to the healthcare system that
Mhm.
maybe my naturopath's not going to get when he, or whatever, or have the same network. So I maintain both, see them both, and they balance, my personal health. Um, I would love for my naturopath to be covered, but we cover all that out of pocket. But when he orders labs and medications and things like that, now that all goes through my insurance and that's all handled.
Correct.
So, but I handle the premiums and the visits and things like that.
And I
It's
do see people like kind of moving in that direction
Mhm.
because they have certain concerns in their life. And you see a lot of commercials for a new way of doing medicine where they're looking for specific things, diabetes, heart, potential cancer, and
Mhm.
they're trying to care for the whole individual. But that is usually outside of anyone's normal insurance.
Gotcha. I have been exposed to some insurance products now that are providing their own healthcare clinics, their own doctors' networks that they all kind of
Yes.
keep it in house, and it's
Yes.
only for the. Now you're aware of stuff like that too, or are you seeing more
Yes.
of that? Yeah.
And you're seeing those again primarily in the Medicare area.
Okay.
We've even had some conversations. This would be nice to have for people under 65 or who aren't
Mhm.
on Medicare as well, because they're at least talking together a little bit better.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
they're identifying what's going on. Um, and you had mentioned a little bit earlier about getting a second opinion.
Hmm.
I just want to share something about my personal uh, story here. My father has diabetes. My father had been on insulin um, and had an issue about a month ago. Went into the hospital. My mother had adjusted their diet. They had been exercising. Um, he is currently rehabbing from a series of seizures that he had, but they are not giving him insulin in this nursing facility because his levels are fine based on his diet. They are giving him some medications to help him control it.
Oral stuff.
Oral stuff, yes.
Mhm.
But an interesting scenario is that he had been on insulin. His diet, his exercise, even though he's in rehab, is better now that they've indicated we don't need to give him that at this point in time.
Isn't that something?
Yeah. So being able to have your professionals, and in my father's case, we're fortunate his primary care provider is literally across the yard from where his rehab facility is. So there's a lot of good close coordination of care there. Um, but when you have that type of coordination of care and the family knows
Mhm.
or a loved one knows, we can balance those things out. And that's how people take a little bit more control of their healthcare back and can navigate the system.
Yeah. Um, I got a thought. I imagine we're sitting here just firing stuff off at each other, and we kind of know questions that we should ask.
Mhm.
The average person who's facing the dauntingness of the healthcare system,
Mhm.
they don't even know the questions, Edward. They
Yeah.
don't even know what they have to ask. And so, what do you tell them? Or is this Quizify a good place to start? Are there other resources that you
It's it's
suggest?
a
Yeah.
it's a good place to start. Um, you're gonna have places like the Alzheimer's Association, you're
Mhm.
gonna have places, like the diabetes associations where you can go ask some of those questions.
Okay.
But probably the biggest thing is people need to take a step back
Mm.
and kind of breathe. Um, one of the questions, if you on this Quizify for cancer is, can you describe my options in the event that I can't make my own decisions?
Mhm.
Most people haven't even thought about that. Do they have a power of attorney? Um, do they have a mental power of attorney here in the state of Arizona?
That's a tough one. Yeah.
Because who's going to make those choices if something happens that you no longer can?
Right.
Okay. And you know what? You jokingly, you might not want that to be your spouse.
Well, can I just make a point, and maybe this will be helpful to others. All right.
Hmm.
So my wife's parents are in their 80s.
Hmm.
Father's a little older than her mother. Dad is in assisted living now. Just it's just the course of his life. And up until the last few months, they were still each other's primary healthcare power and financial power of attorney.
Hmm.
Well, mom's getting ready to go have hip replacement surgery. And my wife says to her, if something, I mean, dad's going to be making decisions for you. Is that still all right with you? Or is this the time now that you two need to get out of first chair for each other? And her sister and her step into those first chairs for their parents, for each other
Yeah.
in the event something's going down because of their age. And they had been so proud and so protective and so healthy and so concerned with just managing it, keeping, not negatively, but they they're proud. They wanted to keep the kids,
Hmm.
um, respect their privacy and all that. But now they've got to both kind of let in because the very issue, just what you just said,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm. And part of that too is deciding which child. If you have multiple kids, you might think, "Oh, I want the one that's here to make these decisions," but that might not be the right choice.
Yeah. Yeah. They've got that worked out, thankfully. One likes money better than the other, and one's in the care business and the other one's not. So they kind of got the roles down well, but they activating it was now the right time to activate that and to ask the question to mom, go, do you really want this to be the case? I mean, we
Mhm.
would never make a decision without dad, but do you want the pressure and the responsibility on him in this case? Is that too much for him at this point in his journey? Right. I
Correct.
think families have to start asking adult kids and their parents, having that conversation.
Mhm.
So in case you do have to um, confront the healthcare system for an emergency or even a whatever, an elective surgery like joint replacement, you still have to deal with it because they're going to turn your
Right.
lights out and somebody's got to be there to make a call. Something's goes odd.
Correct. And as we get older, we have to look at these things. I've got a family friend, unfortunate scenario. She was sick, in the hospital, had to leave her home, go to another state to get the care that she needed.
Mhm.
Um, Her husband has having dementia issues, was getting older as well. Um, he wasn't with her at the time, but eventually got them closer together. He unfortunately passed away while
Mm.
she's still trying to rehab. So now who does what for
Yeah.
whom?
Yeah. Yeah.
And if we're not having these conversations, they could have tried to do, extraordinary care for the husband while he's in hospice, against her wishes if they don't know what they want,
Right. Right. Right.
and thus you kind of stress everything out even further,
Yeah.
for the family.
The things that these particular situations that you're describing are we're not just randomly grabbing these
No,
most of these things we're talking about, many of us have encountered firsthand and
correct.
our clients are dealing with. And these are the things that we coach, counsel, advise, guide, support families in this journey. We get calls from everything from I need a GPS
Mhm.
locator for my adult husband who meanders the neighborhood and he's usually
Mhm.
pretty good, but I don't want to lose him to big questions regarding hospital bills and powers of attorney and end of life decisions. Hey, Edward, we're kind of winding down here, but I know that I had just a thought that I wanted to run by you real quick too. And that just before we get out of here, talk a little bit about when you get your bill,
Mhm.
when it's overdone, when treatment's over and you start getting your bill or you get your statement from your physician, the hospital, the surgeon, the anesthesiologist,
Yep.
what your provider's paying and not paying. How do you reconcile that? Is there a couple of quick tips that you would recommend that you take a look at?
Yes. So one, you want to ask for a detailed bill. I'm going to keep saying that. If you go out to dinner, they give you a detailed bill and tell you who ate what, and you can sit there and go, you know what? I had that one drink, but I didn't have the other, and I didn't have dessert, so that's the wrong thing on my bill. But people don't generally get that when they go to a hospital. They get a bill that lists here's how much they say you need to pay, but they don't tell you for what
Okay.
and for when. So getting a detailed bill that has what's called the CPT codes, it's current procedural uh, codes,
And that's
and
for the
each
insurance, that's insurance language, really.
it's yes,
That's yeah.
it's insurance language, and unfortunately, usually you have to push a little bit and ask for that detailed bill.
Okay.
Okay, and then take some time and read it, but read it with someone you trust, like going, "Hey, does this make sense to you?" Okay, because it should show you what that bill is, what your insurance would pay, and what you
Hmm.
would pay. And remember, I told you there's two sides to the hospital system. You've got the care side and you've got the
Right.
business side. Okay. If anybody's ever worked in business, businesses make mistakes. They could charge you incorrectly for something,
Right.
not on purpose, but they could. So check it. Make sure you're being billed properly, for what's going on.
Right.
In my line of work, when we're dealing with seniors, a lot of the times I'm asking questions and I'm working with them and I want to know, does anybody else help you make big decisions? Because if there is someone else who does that, that's who needs to be with you when you're looking at the bill.
Good call. Yeah.
Okay?
Real smart.
And every hospital is supposed to have their pricing transparency online for you to
Okay.
find.
Really?
Again, for the senior market, you are not going to get a booklet with the pricing. It's online, but it can be a little challenging to read sometimes. So that's where you want to have someone help you, where you can either have a patient advocate, family member,
Okay.
or an agent like myself. We look through these things and we can kind of tell you, hey, this
Awesome.
is something we want to question. This is something we want to move forward with.
Thank you for that. That's great. Um, if you find yourself in that situation, do not hesitate to give us a call. Edward's contact information will be listed. You can find him through our website. Your direct contact information will make sure it's posted on the video here, Edward. I can't thank you enough. These are hard things, and you said most people don't want to deal with it. It's the
Yeah.
old ostrich, put your head in the sand, right? I don't no,
No.
no, no. But that could be a very dangerous reaction. And so we are here to help. We're here to get you connected to the right people and to walk you through your issues. But thanks again for coming in. And you have a heart of gold. You work so hard for so many people, and you get into the middle of all these really tough. And we didn't even talk about those of us that are starting to panic about getting close to 65. You're going to have to transition me onto this here in a couple of years, and we'll talk about it more maybe in another episode on that issue. But thanks again for joining us. Anything you want to share before we get out of here?
Yeah, one last thing. We love our families. One of the best ways to love them is to talk to them and talk about these things. Because at least if you have a plan, it's easier for them to go through the challenge than for everything to be discombobulated and they're having to go through another challenge.
Thank you. Talk to each other often and in love. All right, Edward, thanks again, you guys. And for our audience, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate you. We thank you for taking a few minutes. This takes 25 minutes to sit down and listen to us. But for all those of you that follow us, we are grateful. Tell your friends about what we're doing here. These issues are affecting us all. It is happening to all of us and all of our families. These will be the issues that mark a generation. So anyways, looking forward to seeing you on the next time. Edward, we'll talk to you soon. I'm sure we'll catch each other next week or so. Thanks to everybody for joining us. Take care.
Thank you. Take care, everybody.